Hi, this is Lindsay, the Crafty Blonde, and today I want to show you how to make this pretty mermaid card using the cool Bargello technique to create the background. To make this card you'll need the first edition Beyond the Shore papers, a piece of copy paper, a piece of card approximately A5, a scrap of card that's big enough to stamp your sentiment on, the Trimcraft Happy Birthday sentiment stamp, a border punch or die, Trimcraft wooden frames in the colour to match your papers, some pretty ribbon, resin flowers again in the colours to match, a selection of gems, and I also cut out some mermaids from the 12 by 12 papers. So to start with, you want to take 4 or 5 different papers and you're going to cut those, leaving the width into 2 centimetre tall strips, and you'll want 2 from each piece. You're then going to add strips of double-sided tape onto the back of each piece before sticking them down onto the copy paper. Once this is complete, you need to cut through the pattern vertically so that you end up with a section of each paper within the strip. I've done my measurements and I've alternated them between 2 centimetres wide and 1.5 centimetres wide, which just gives a little bit of variation when you're putting them together in a pattern. So once I've got all my strips cut out, I'm going to take all the strips and place them on the piece of card, trying to create a pattern design that's basically pleasing to suit myself. So once I've done that, I'm again going to add double-sided tape onto the back of each strip, and then I'm going to take each strip and place them onto the white card in the pattern that I decided that I liked. So once I've got all my strips stuck down, I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to cut it so that it is 14 centimetres wide by 9.5 centimetres tall. And because I've got lots of length within my strips, I can choose sort of which sections of the pattern that I would like to use within that 9.5 centimetres height. I'm then going to take a piece of coloured card and I'm going to cut it so that it is 10 centimetres tall by 14.5 centimetres wide. I'm then going to take the patterned panel and add it to the piece of coloured card using my favourite glue. Again, I always use this just to give me a little bit of wiggle room when I'm lining it up so that I can get it nice and straight. I've then taken the border die, and the one I'm using is an old Trimcraft Bell and Boo, and I'm just running that through my little die cutting machine. So once I've die cut that, and I'm just carefully getting it out of the die. I realise that it's not quite long enough for my panel, so I'm just going to snip it in half, because that bit is going to be covered up by the frame so that you won't see it once it's all on the panel. So I'm just going to then add that onto my panel using a bit of sided tape, and just taking care to line it up so that I've got them placed the same height either side of that panel. And then here I'm just taking the wooden frames and deciding which one I wanted to use. Then I'm taking that piece of white scrap card, and I'm going to take the Trimcraft Happy Birthday sentiment stamp, and using the VersaFine ink I'm just going to stamp that into the centre of that card. Then I'm taking the wooden frame and I'm just marking where I need that sentiment to be, and I'm going to cut the excess card away so that I haven't got any white card peeking out from behind the frame. Then I'm just going to take a little bit of glue onto the back of that frame and stick the frame onto the sentiment so that the sentiment appears in the centre of the frame. And then finally just checking that that's going to fit over where I've got that gap in my border. Then I'm going to take a piece of A4 white card, leaving the width, which is 21 centimetres, cut that to 15 centimetres tall, and then I'm going to score it in half at 10.5 centimetres and fold that in half to give me my card blank. Then before I stick the panel onto the card blank, I've decided just to add a strip of ribbon across the centre of that border, and just to give it a bit of texture and dimension. So I'm just sticking that across the front and wrapping the ends around the back so that I haven't got any frayed edges, and just securing that with a little bit of double-sided tape. And then I'm going to take my glue and stick the whole panel to the front of the card blank. So then I'm going to take my wooden frame and I'm going to take a few foam pads and place those on the back, and then I'm going to pop that onto my panel over where I've got the gap in the border, just to cover that up so that you can't see it. And then I'm going to take the little mermaids and shells that I've cut out from the 12 by 12 papers and the resin flowers, and I'm just going to play about with those and just decorate around the frame and across the front of the card. And then just to finish off, I'm going to take a selection of different coloured gems and just place those randomly wherever pleases me on the front of the card. And then just to finish off my card, I've decided to decorate the inside. So I'm cutting a piece of coloured card, so it's 10 centimetres tall by 14.5 centimetres wide. Then I'm taking the white card, and that is going to be cut to 9.5 centimetres tall by 14 centimetres wide. And then I'm just going to mat those two together using the glue. Then, just to add a bit of decoration across the bottom of the panel, I've taken a piece left over from the patterned panel that we'd made up earlier, and I'm just cutting, I think it's about 1.5 centimetres tall, and I'm just trimming that off just to give it a diagonal edge, and I'm just going to stick that across the bottom of the panel just to add a little bit of decoration. And then again, using the collal glue, I'm just going to add that panel into the back of the card to finish off. And then just before I finished, I'd got a little mermaid that was cut out and not used, so just with a little bit of glue I decided to add that into the corner. And there you have my pretty Bargello mermaid themed card. Thank you for joining me today.